Awesome. Okay. A former full-time nomad of nearly 10 consecutive years, having visited all 50 states and 21 countries. I've visited 50 states too. That's pretty amazing that you've done that. I love it. While working from wherever there was Wi-Fi, Kristen LaJeunesse is a traditionally published author, two-time business owner, and occasional public speaker. Hailing from a tiny town in upstate New York, let's just call it Upper Gotham. Kristen grew up riding horses competitively and went on to major in equestrian studies in undergrad before shifting focus and receiving a master's degree in marketing communications. Today, Kristen is the founding principal of KLM Collective, a boutique copywriting studio that specializes in copy for websites, emails, and newsletters, sales, and landing pages, and related articles. When Kristen is not writing, you can find her doing yoga, currently on a daily streak of 2+ years. That's amazing. Dining out at a vegan eatery, dancing, salsa, swing, and blues whenever possible, geeking out on the latest MCU. It took me a second to figure out what that was, but I think I know. Or sci-fi adventure action flick. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Kristen LaJeunesse. Woo!
Hello. Wow. That was quite the intro. And did you get what MCU is, Jimmy?
Is it Marvel Comics Universe?
Marvel Cinematic Universe. Very close.
Cinematic Universe. I was so close.
Basically the same thing.
Okay.
Alrighty, let me share my screen so I can jump into this presentation that I put together for y'all. So thank you for that. And just so that you all know, I am currently in New York City, cat sitting for a friend. So a couple of reasons I'm telling you that. Number one, you may see cats running around behind me. One of them is currently having the zoomies. So if you hear any crashing or anything, just know I'm okay. The cat may be getting into something. Also, I don't have my usual setup, which means I can't necessarily see you while I'm looking at my presentation deck. So if you have any questions that come in or anything like that, I may not see it in the moment. I'll probably just be seeing my...
I'll watch the chat for you, so
okay,
we can,
cool.
And I'll let you know if anything comes up.
And
let everybody know about
yes.
the live audit if they're interested for later on in their hours.
Yeah. So I know that Jimmy dropped this in the chat already, but for anyone who would like a live in front of everyone else mini audit of a single page of your website, or even if you've been struggling with your email copy or anything related to copywriting that you could use help with and that you would have available kind of in this moment to pull up and share your screen, I'd be happy to do a live quick audit. And what that would look like is really just me giving it kind of a once over with you. At the same time, I'd go through and just give you my feedback on, sometimes it's the format and structure, other times it's just the copy. But for anyone who would like to take advantage of having me here with you now, please either pull up that URL link or a Google Doc or whatever it may be and get that ready. And I think we'll probably just take order of go, right? Whoever kind of volunteers first will get priority. So, all right. So having said that, I will jump in. Thank you so much again for having me. My name is Kristen LaJeunesse. I am a business owner. I'm a conversion copywriter, and I also come in sometimes with other businesses as a strategic partner, which basically means that I'm coming on board as a staff extension to help with ongoing or recurring needs that they may have related to their copy and content. And so today's presentation, we're going to talk about a couple of different things here. We're going to go over some basic lingo related to copy and content that are often confused. It helps me to clarify those things early on, because a lot of times when I'm working with someone or trying to explain something, they're using words interchangeably that aren't necessarily interchangeable. And the reason that's important for you is because if you hire a copywriter, or if you are a writer yourself and you want to start doing this more for your own business or as a resource or tool that you can provide other people or your clients, it can be helpful to sound like you know what you're talking about when you can distinguish between a couple of the lingo-y type of copywriting jargon words. We're just going to do a couple, it won't be too much. And then we're going to talk about the value of VOC. Does anyone know what VOC stands for? I will open the chat. Okay. Ooh, David's volunteer.
Voice of customer?
Kevin, winner, Kevin. Yes,
Wow.
it stands for voice of customer. Very good. So voice of customer is a huge part of copywriting. It's one of the most important pieces of developing the voice, tone, and messaging of your copy. So we're going to talk about the value of it and what that means and how to use it. Then I'm going to focus on two particular pages of your website. They are the most visited pages of your website, the home page and the about page. So I'm going to talk you through some important copy pieces of both of those pages, and I'm going to show you real life examples of copy that I've created for clients, one of whom is in this call right now. So didn't give you a heads up, Galia, but we're going to be looking at your website copy, both the live version on your website and what it looked like before it went live on Galia's website. And then we're going to talk about testimonials. I know when you see that, you're probably thinking, duh, like, of course, testimonials are important, but I'm going to talk more about not only what you do with them, but how to take a big chunky, hunky, like, ooh, this person said 100 words or more, and boil it down into the most effective pieces that you can extract from those testimonials. And as a little bonus too, I have a document that I'm more than happy to share with you all that has the types of questions to ask your clients in order to get those juicy testimonials that will help move the needle on your business, right? Help qualify your leads and get people to reach out to you, not just kind of generic, oh, someone said something nice and fluffy, but what does it really mean? So we're gonna talk about that. And then of course, we'll close with a live audit. Again, for anyone who would like that, we should have about 30, 45 minutes for the audit, depending on how slowly I talk during this initial part of the presentation. Being from New York, I have a tendency to talk quickly. So I'm making a conscious effort to talk. This is me talking slowly. So if anyone has trouble, please let me know or raise a hand. But this is why I'm trying to pace myself, because I tend to talk very quickly. So let's first talk about the lingo. Very basic starter. What is copywriting? It is a marketing-focused content, marketing-focused copy, right? So it's about persuasion and selling. And this is often seen in places like your website, your emails and newsletters, sales and landing pages, advertisements, both print and digital, your slogan, your tagline, even the name of your business can be something that's workshopped with a copywriter. Content writing, on the other hand, is information-based. So when we're talking about teaching someone how to do something, instruction, education, entertainment, you'll find this in blog posts and articles. You will also find this in emails and newsletters, because not all of them are trying to make a sale. Some emails and newsletters are just to inform your clients or keep them up to date on what you're doing. Social media, if you got an ebook, like let's say you maybe want to have a downloadable worksheet or document or ebook that you use as an email opt-in or lead magnet, right? So that would be content. And then in case studies or white papers, so places that you want to showcase your business for potential future work. So again, just a quick recap, and this is all I'm doing on the lingo, so I promised it wouldn't be too much, but copywriting: to persuade, sell, move to action, content, educate, entertain, instruct. Now, there is some overlap, of course, including the use of some data, keywords, and integrating language from your target market. Happy to answer any questions about that should you have them, but I'm going to keep going. So let's talk about the thing that Kevin got right in the first question, voice of customer data, or we call it VOC in the copywriting world. This is a research tool. Basically, we use it to help discover the real life words that your clients or potential clients use to describe things like their pain points. I know, I'm sure you've all heard of like, use pain points when you talk to that, like talk on your website copy, make sure you hit those emotion driven pieces of why they want to work with you, why they want to hire you, right? So the focus of this type of research, and I'm going to show you how to do it. A copywriter should do it as part of their job for you. But if this is something that you want to do for your business, or let's say you have your website up and running, but it's not quite converting, you're noticing in analytics that people are bumping off of a certain part of your website or a certain page, this is an opportunity for you to go through and say, is my copy focused on me? Or does it speak to my ideal target market or customer? This is why voice of customer is so critical, because we're basically pulling out the real life words and feelings that your prospective or current clients are using to express why they want your help. And we're embedding that as organically as possible into your copy. So just backing up the importance of it here, a little quick stat, 15 to 20%, right? So customer feedback, collecting customer feedback has increased upselling and cross-selling by 15 to 20%, and will save you about 25% on retention. So that, I don't think I have to explain that to any of you. You all know, right? That just means that you will potentially spend less money on trying to get new clients. You'll have recurring work, not just from the amazing work that you do with your clients, but also because you'll be continuing to speak to them, whether it's in follow-up materials that you send after your formal work with them is done, or in your email sequences, your welcome sequences, any place where you're verbally, in a written sense, communicating with them what they need, what they want, why they would work with you, right? So there is legitimate value here. It's not just copywriters making up something fun to sell their work. So here's how it works if you wanted to start to do this yourself. It can feel a little overwhelming. So again, feel free to drop questions in. And this is a service that copywriters should provide you as part of their work, unless you want to do it yourself. Here's how it works. So the first step is collecting feedback from your customers or clients. So there are a lot of different ways to do that. The easiest and most accessible ones are typically interviews, where you're kind of quite literally sitting down with them, and you can even have a third party do that, whether it's a copywriter or someone on your team, like your VA or something, who they can be kind of, so that your client doesn't feel like, oh no, I have to say all the best things because I'm talking directly with the person I worked with, but maybe having a third party come in so that they feel more comfortable answering questions about what the experience was like, not just working with you. This isn't just about getting testimonials. It's also, you know, what kind of mindset were you in when you decided to click that purchase now or buy now button? Or how were you feeling before you worked with Jimmy? And then how do you feel now that you're on the other side of that? So there's a series of questions, which as I mentioned earlier, I'm happy to share those with you, as well as the ones for the testimonials. But there are a series of very specific types of questions that you can ask to elicit the type of words and language that will be helpful. You can do surveys and feedback forms. You could do some internet sleuthing. So if you have any products or services that, let's say you've got Facebook reviews, right? You've got a Facebook business page and you have people that have left reviews on there, or LinkedIn reviews, or if you have a product on Amazon or a book or something, right? You can look at the reviews there. And basically what you're doing is deep diving into what are the common themes or common language or words that keep coming up, no matter who it is, right? So is there a single word like growth? Like everyone keeps saying that they've experienced growth working with you, or after reading your book, like they feel enlightened, or whatever it may be, right? So we're looking for consistent keywords and phrases that come up that are related to, as we say here in the document or the presentation you're looking at, right? Things that are addressing pain points, confusion, hesitations, obsessions, things that they loved. So you're kind of looking for all these different things. And if you want to take it to a level that will help you sort through this, can do what I do and what other people who do this professionally do, is create some kind of spreadsheet or a way to track these things so you can cross-reference. You could drop in all the things that you're finding, interview answers, Q&A, the internet sleuthing, your website analytics, right? And cross-reference all of these pieces to see where is the good stuff? Where are we finding that overlapping messaging that I know if I add that to the opening paragraph on my homepage, that's going to more directly and quickly speak to someone than if I just said, I'm a self-help coach, hire me, right? And then the third piece of this is, so we collect the data, we analyze it, cross-reference it, and then we do something with it. We update the copy on the website, on your emails and newsletters, wherever the written representation of your brand or voice messaging lives, you want to make sure you update it. And this is where it can be like a little bit more of an art form, right? Because we want to make sure we're not just listing out these keywords or phrases that you find, but We're building it into paragraphs as organically as possible. We're also positioning it in a way that keeps the reader engaged. This is especially important on your website copy. You've got things, and we're going to talk about this a little later, but you've got things like the hierarchy of messaging. That just means your header, your subheader, the body text, and how those things flow together to keep the reader engaged. Okay, let me move on from that. So let's look at an example of voice of customer in action. So can anyone guess? This is a question where I'd like to see if anyone knows where this quote comes from. It is, what do you do with the mad that you feel when you feel so mad you could bite? Now, I'm not looking for grammatical accuracy feedback, but does anyone know where this is from?
It's not Dr. Seuss, but it sounds like something like that.
I mean, it's not far off. Actually, I know that Mr. Rogers isn't Dr. Seuss, but here's the thing. Interesting fact. So when Mr. Rogers was developing some of the songs, the songs that he would sing to the kids through the TV, he used this direct quote from a child in his song, and it became one of the most. I did watch a little bit of Mr. Rogers growing up, but I kind of missed it a little bit there. I don't know that I was quite in the target market at the age that I was as he was moving off of the TV. But this became one of the most memorable lines from one of his songs. And the goal wasn't to speak to the parents, right? It doesn't matter that it's kind of grammatically a mess. The goal was to speak to his target audience, which were children. And so imagine, you're trying to talk to your kid about why they're biting, right? If you say, why are you biting? Don't bite. But if you can express it in a way that you're so mad, right? This is not you talking to your kid, but this is Dr. Rogers. This is Mr. Rogers helping a kid understand that he gets how they feel. And he's doing it because he's using a literal quote, a direct quote from a child who expressed this to him. So I know it's a little off in terms of what the work that you are all doing, right? But this is just an example of how you can use voice of customer. So here's another example. There is a very popular copywriter who expressed in a presentation that she gave quite some time ago that she was working with a rehab facility, drug and addiction rehab facility, and they were having trouble converting people from their website to sign up for help and support. So she went sleuthing through the internet. She found a very popular book on rehab. And one of the reviews that the person left on Amazon was, if you think you need rehab, you do. So they changed the tagline, the subheader, I should say, on the homepage. So it was like name of business. And then it said, if you think you need rehab, you do, right below it. And they experienced a 400% increase in their click-throughs, and a 25% increase in qualified leads. So again, just a powerful example of changing one sentence or one little piece of copy can make a huge difference in the engagement of your content copy. Okay, and one more example. So here is a real life example of one of my clients, a therapist who had a version of this on their website. It said, do you have anxiety, depression, and stress? Sure, we all could say yes to those things, right? Everyone, yeah, especially today. We all experience some degree of these in some capacity. But what if we reworked it a little bit to talk about what it means to have those things? Missing important life events, canceling on people, feeling super stressed, overthinking everything, feeling too low to figure anything out. So we workshopped this together, the client and I did, to not just state, here are the things that you may label experiencing, but we extracted examples of what those things could look like. So this is just a different example, right? So we're not taking a direct quote from a kid or a direct piece of text from an Amazon review. We're taking a general concept or idea that any therapist, mostly any type of therapist, could put on their website, And we're making it more specific to how their real clients or potential clients might express these particular feelings. Like, how does it show up or manifest for them? Okay, so let's talk about. Oh, does someone have a question? Dorothy, did you have a question?
I think.
Okay, no problem. Also, I do apologize. You can probably hear the sirens. As I said, I'm in the city at the moment, so this will probably happen more than once. Okay, let's talk about copy for your homepage and why it matters. So as I mentioned at the start, your homepage is in the top 2 pages that people will visit on your website. So it's important that the content or copy here really speaks to your ideal client. It also sets the stage or gives a first impression of what someone may experience. And it's typically the landing spot for a first-time visitor. There are a few reasons this happens, right? If you think about how people come to your website, sometimes it's a referral from someone else and they copy your URL and send it to someone. And typically that'll go just to your homepage unless they're specifically copying a particular service URL to a service or something that you offer, right? Also, when you put your link to your website on LinkedIn or in any other places, you're typically linking directly to the homepage. And finally, Google and other search engines are often pulling so that like the little backend robots that are sleuthing the internet for relevant content. When someone types in, "I need help with X," something like that, Google is searching based on largely the homepage or anywhere that the keywords that people are typing in are most prominent. So this is also why it matters, because a cold lead may find you through a Google search. So you want to make sure that your homepage has that language that speaks to your target market and helps move them to action to hire you or download the ebook or whatever the call to action is that you're trying to get them to do. Okay, a little pop quiz. I originally had a different title for this next section, the 2 primary goals of your homepage. Does anyone want to guess why I changed the word primary? I'm trying to remember what I had before. It was like the 2 most important goals of your homepage, but I changed it to primary goals of your homepage. I'm trying to give you a hint in the way I'm saying it. 2 primary goals of your homepage. Anyone want to guess why I chose the word primary?
Because it comes first.
That makes sense logically, sure. It actually has to do with alliteration, right? When we hear, let me underline.
Okay, I was going to say I don't see the alliteration, but I got you now.
Yes, so we're going with the P sound here, right?
Right on.
And there is a reason that we're doing that. Okay, this is just like a real quick aside for anyone who also loves alliteration. It's actually quite effective. Now, you don't want every paragraph or sentence on your website to have a version of this, but it creates a bit of a rhythm. It carries the text forward. It creates a bit of memory, right? Memorable experience. I still remember this one workshop I was in last week. The woman had said, if you have time to park it, you have time to market. And she was basically saying, if you have time to sit in front of your computer and watch something, you have time to market or promote your business. But she phrased it in that way. And I still remember that expression, right? And so when I feel guilty about binging Seinfeld or something, right? I'm like, oh, I should be marketing my business. So just a quick aside, right? This is not a make it or break it thing for your copy, but if you are like me and you love alliteration, just know that use it. It doesn't always have to be on your website or in your emails. It can be kind of in any written version, or it works especially well for titles or subtitles to help the reader keep moving along and create memorable and relatable text. So the 2 primary goals of your homepage are to provide useful information and guide the user to the next place you want them to go. And here's how we do this. We create headlines and subheadlines, or titles and subtitles, that include those keywords and phrases that you extracted from your voice of customer data mining exercise or research. We focus on info-bearing words and headings in the body copy. And we have to give consideration to the visual hierarchy of your messaging as well. So like I was saying earlier, the header, subheader, the body text, does it visually work well and keep the reader engaged, right? Because we've all seen those websites that have clunky, chunky, too many colors, too many font styles, italics, bolded, right? And it's just, your eyes don't know where to go. You get exhausted, you click away. Okay. Also, the way that we implement this is to not try to be super cute and clever. I know that we just talked about alliteration, which can lend itself to that sort of thing, but it's always better to be clear and direct. And this is where the art of copywriting comes into play, right? Because we're balancing the being clear and direct with the voice of customer, that key messaging, and doing it in a way that doesn't feel forced, right? So we're kind of like trying to jam all these things together in a way that actually works and doesn't feel too much or not enough. You also want to make sure that your copy dictates the design. And that basically means if you're working on updating your website copy, write it for what it is going to say, not for how your website looks. And that's true for if you're hiring a designer. You want to have your copywriter write the copy before you give it to the designer, because the copy is what's going to move that person to action. Yes, it needs to look beautiful. And I am personally a stickler for a beautifully designed website. But it matters what it says, because yes, you're going to have a bunch of those people that kind of scan, or they're a warm lead, so they don't need to read all the details because they kind of already know you a little bit, or they trust you. But you're going to have the occasional person that's going to read every little bit. And so it's important that you give consideration to the copy and making sure that that is fully developed before worrying about what it looks like on the website. And then final note here, less is more. General lesson in life, I think we can all agree that, like, don't, just because you can do or say all the things to help your clients, don't put every single little thing on there, or find a way to do it that's like in bullet points or in a way that makes it more accessible and readable, and not just overwhelming the reader. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to switch my views here. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute. I'm going to show you an example of what a wireframe looks like. And so Gallia, get ready. This is your website. This is Gallia's website before it went to the designer. And so this is what it looks like. For those of you who hadn't caught on yet, I did work with Gallia to write her new website copy. So this is a real version of what Gallia was given, what I gave her as we worked through updates to her website copy. Now, of course, this is after we had meetings about her brand messaging and her voice of customer and all these things, right? But I just wanted you to see what it looks like before it goes to the designer. And I'm happy to share these documents with you if you want to take, because I created a version of these that are shareable, that don't have all of the secret stuff, all the things that maybe Gallia or my other clients that I'll show you other websites later may not be comfortable with people seeing. So these are versions of those. These are copies of those that are, that I'm comfortable sharing with you. So if anyone wants these, to take a look. But I basically have notes in the sidebar here. I won't read through all of them, but I have notes explaining certain pieces of this and what are keywords that we've integrated and why we are starting, for example, like this, the title of this section, why we're starting with the word quit, right? Like a very kind of not aggressive, but a word that you wouldn't expect to see off the jump, right? So I've got little notes in the sidebar explaining these things. And again, I won't go through all of them now, but if anyone would like to take a look at this, and this is just the homepage. Okay. So as you can see, like there is a very basic format and structure that I'm recommending. So I am not a designer, I'm just the writer. So, but I still want to make it clear for the designer that like, and some copywriters will actually put like H1, H2, like the code that would be used to create the certain size font, like they would put that there. But I usually I leave that up to the designer, but I make the font bigger to say, this is the title, this is the subtitle, let's put a button here. this is the hero image text copy. This is what goes below the fold where you scroll down. So I try to make it as clear as possible. And then it's kind of up to the designer to translate that into Gallia's homepage. So as you can see, like we've got a nice photo, the text is left aligned. So the designer took some liberties on how to, and that's what I want them to do, right? So you can see it's still generally structured. We've got our 3 columns. It's generally structured in a similar fashion, but of course now it's stylized to Gallia's color scheme and the visual representation of her brand that I don't really have a part in, right? Like I help with the messaging and the voice and tone, but this is now what it looks like in the visual version. So that's an example of a wireframe of what it looks like that I would give you as your copywriter, and then what it looks like after the designer has turned it into an actual website. So
can I say something?
Yeah.
I want to just share with you all that when I gave that wireframe to my web designer, he was thrilled. He was like, oh my gosh, I wish every copywriter did this so clearly. And so it was so clear for him to understand where the placement should be and everything. And it was just he was super grateful for Kristen's organization and understanding of how her copy translated onto a web page. So I just wanted to say that because I don't think every copywriter does it so clearly, but anyhow, just wanted to just say that's awesome. And my web designer, like I didn't understand. I was like, oh, this is cool. I didn't even appreciate it myself, but he certainly appreciated it because he has to work with copy all the time and then figure out that design. And so he was really grateful for that support.
Thank you, Gallia. I appreciate that. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to an about page, or let's talk about copy for an about page. So in a recent study, it was discovered that 52% of people tend to visit a company's about page when they visit the website for the first time. So again, this is why we're focusing on the about page, because people are going here, more than 50% of visitors, that's a lot. Okay. And the reason that we want to talk about your copy on your about page for a few things, other than the fact that people are visiting it, is that it helps build your strong brand message, the voice and tone. It can position you as an expert in your industry or your field, because this is where you have more liberty to talk about your background and expertise and education and things like that. Especially if you're, a solo coach of some kind. Of course, it'll look a little different if you have multiple people that are working within your business. It also tells people why they should choose you. And this is a good place to, include things like your mission and vision and stuff like that. Now, not everyone needs to have a mission and vision, but this is where those things would go. So other things that people may value in hiring you, like inclusion and diversity and things like that. So your about page should do 2 primary things: connect on a more personal level with the viewer or the reader, and just like the homepage, guide them to the next logical place to go, i.e. the call to action that you have, the thing that you want them to do. And this is how we do it. Attention-grabbing headlines, reassuring words in heading and body copy, like you're in the right place, maybe not that direct, but that kind of essence. Prioritizing the benefits of your product or service over the features. Happy to get into benefits over features, but I know I'm talking with a very smart crowd here, so I don't think I need to explain that, but if anyone has questions, I'm happy to talk about that. It also, another way to do this is to get real with who you are and why you do what you do. Even though we've been talking a lot about the voice of your customer, we also want to make sure that your voice, especially if you are a one-on-one type of coach, or if you are the brand, you as a person are your brand, then it's also important that we're integrating your voice, like who you are as a real person, in that too, right? Because I'm sure you've heard this, but even if there are other people that are doing what you do or something similar to what you do, it will be different because it's you, it's not them, right? So it's important that who you are, the essence of your character, if you're quirky and silly, or you like to swear, or you're a little more corporate-y and serious, right? Like it doesn't matter which of those descriptions suit you. What matters is that we're incorporating those too. And the about page is a really great place to get a little more personal with your own tone of voice. This is also where you can explain your process and what it's like working with you. I do encourage you to put a little bit of that on the homepage too, but again, we want to make sure that in most of the places, most of the copy on your website is talking about your potential client and not about you. So again, the about page is where we get to talk a little bit more about you. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you can include things like credentials, your professional experience, things like that, if you have certificates and such. So I'm going to switch again to showcase a different client to show you what their wireframe looks like for an about page. So let me just get that up here. Okay, so again, this is what a general about page looks like. And when we get to the bottom of this document, I'm going to show you a structure or format of the key pieces that you should include on your homepage or your about page, especially for the type of work that you all are doing as coaches. So again, it doesn't look terribly different than the homepage, right? But the type of copy is a little bit different. And we're also introducing the woman here. I think, yes, so this is for a intuitive eating coach. So then we talk about the user first. We're making it about them first. And then we introduce the expert, the person they would be working with. We've got space for a client testimonial, should they want to include that. We've got a section for what to expect while working with them. And then she just, by the time I had been working on this, she hadn't finished filling out her education and training. And then a call to action at the end. This is a very simple version of, hey, let's be in touch. But the reason I'm sharing this one with you is because this is where I dropped the formula. Let me zoom in on this so it's a little easier to see. But this is the super basic formula that I recommend, like the foundational pieces of your about page. You obviously have the top navigation menu, which will stay the same on every page of your site. Then you've got your header and your subheader where the text goes for those things, right? Whether it's a welcome to or about such and such name. Then you've got your title copy, which is kind of the first larger text that's below the header. And then you've got your first couple paragraphs that are speaking about your why. And I say you, but it's really like why they should work with you. So remember, you want to make it about them. Like start with some of their pain points, the things they're questioning, their struggles. And you don't have to say it directly like, are you struggling with anxiety, right? You can find other ways to express that like we looked at earlier. And then you want to drop in a testimonial or a quote. If you don't have one, that's okay. You can also use what I call out copy, which is you're taking a key message, a single sentence, and just making it a bigger font like you would or a bigger font size like you might have a testimonial be. So you could certainly have something like, the place, this is not a good example, but like the place to be to find XYZ, or where you'll find X meets Y to give you Z, whatever, right? So you can have something other than a quote or testimonial if you don't have one. But it's nice to kind of drop something in for call out text as a placeholder for when you do get a testimonial. And then you want to introduce who you are, what you do, someone can expect from working with you. You might also bullet point out very specific things that they're struggling with that they are because you did your voice of customer research, and how you help them. You can drop in another testimonial or quote or call out copy. This is then again toward the bottom. You could put a mission, vision, or a statement about inclusion and diversity, that sort of thing. A final call to action, and then a contact button. And then of course you've got your footer at the bottom. So I know I didn't do this for the homepage, and this is not necessarily how everyone's about page will look. But if you're looking for a really basic format to get you started, if you want to update your about page, this is a good place to get started. All right, I'm going to go back to my slides.
Kristen, it's Jimmy. I noticed you used the word quit again here. Is that a little trademarky thing of yours, or is it because it's working with coaches and we try to quit certain behaviors, or what's the reason for that, or was it just mere chance?
I think it was just random.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I should look to make sure I'm not doing that all the time. Thank you for saying that. But yeah, no, I think it just happened to work out that way.
Well, it'd be funny. We go searching around looking at other people's website, and if it starts with quit, we'll be like, that's Kristen's
Kristen has
work.
been here.
I know, Kristen's been here.
Yeah. All right, cool. So last thing we're going to talk about before we do the live audit stuff.
More alliterations.
More alliterations, yes. Okay, let's talk about testimonials. I know that you know they matter. I feel like that episode of Friends, they know that we know that. I don't know if anyone knows that reference, but anywho. So obviously, right? But real quick, as a reminder, they build trust and credibility. It feels less sales pitchy because someone else is saying it. They don't have to take your word for it. They can read someone else's word. And it provides an opportunity for the reader to really relate and say, oh, I want to feel that way, or I wish that were me, kind of a thing. 92% of people will trust a recommendation from a peer, and 70%, that's still a huge amount, will trust a recommendation from someone they don't know. I mean, we all know this, right? Who else goes right to the reviews of when you're looking to buy something? Yeah, exactly. We jump right there. I do it all the time. Even when I'm ordering food online, like being in New York City, normally I'm in upstate, but since I'm in the city cat sitting, when I'm looking at places to eat, I'm immediately going to the reviews to see how many times are people complaining about something versus talking about how amazing the food is. So whether it's what we're eating or who we're hiring to tell us how to live our lives, right? It matters. Testimonials, quotes, they matter. So here's how you'll use them. I know that you know some of these do, if not all of them, but they can be used practically on every page of your website, from your homepage. I mean, not necessarily your contact page, but you could have some there if you'd like. There is certainly an option to have a dedicated testimonials page. It depends on how many you have and the type of services or service that you offer. So if you offer one primary kind of coaching service, you may have the testimonials sprinkled throughout the website. Or if you've got you want to have testimonials that relate to a few different services that you offer, you might have certain ones on dedicated pages, if that makes sense. And then, of course, you can create little images for social media, put the quotables on there. You could put them inside of case studies or blog content. Of course, absolutely on a sales or landing page if you've got a program that you're trying to promote, a specific new coaching program or something. And then in your email campaigns or funnels. So kind of anywhere that words go, you can include testimonials as long as they make sense, right? You don't want them to feel super forced just for the sake of being I'm so great. Okay, once again, I promise this is the last time until we do the live auditing that I'm going to switch over to another document. Because we're going to show you some before and after, and before and after of what it looks like when we get an original testimonial and then when we edit it. And once again, we're using Gallia here as an example, at least I think for both of them. Yeah. So here is the original quote that one of Gallia's clients provided. I mean, it's beautiful. She's recommending her, the experience brought new and better thoughts. This is a lot of good stuff, but also most people aren't going to read all the things, and the really important or juicy or impactful things may get lost. So when we boil it down, this is the first take on editing it. Let me increase the font size or the zoom in again here. So here's the first edit version. I'm not changing the language, but I'm pulling out these two sentences. I experienced new and better thoughts, ideas, and strategies in business and life. Gallia believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. Can we all agree that the most powerful thought this person shared was that Gallia believed in me when I didn't believe in myself? Yes, all that other stuff is great, but imagine having someone on your team or on your side or as your coach who makes you feel like they truly believe in what you do or what you want to do or how you want to change your life or where you want to be in life. And so there are, I mean, every version of this, all three of these could be used in different places on the website, but when you're looking or in other places, because I think we actually might have pulled this from your LinkedIn, Galia, like this exists somewhere on the internet, this longer version. But when we're looking to extract the most moving piece or sentiment, I mean, you could argue that other pieces are really important, but what is someone in Galia's target audience, how are they feeling in a moment that they're landing on her website to hire her as a coach? They want someone who believes in them, right? Okay, here's another one. And we just did one edit to this one. This is another one that, sure, great stuff. A lot of good things here. You know, it was fun, this and that. But when we boil it down and pull out a section, we've decided on whether you are a coach or simply a human being, you will no doubt benefit from having Galia in your corner, showing you there is always more. So one of the reasons I pulled this sentence is because one of the things that Galia and I talked about a lot is this like being human element of her brand messaging. Like she's like, I'm a human, people are human, we're all humanly human, right? And so it really resonated. Like that's not just Galia's messaging. This is also coming from her people that she's working with. So that's part of why we pulled this one out. So I'm just going to show you some questions that you could use. And again, I'm happy to send these documents to Jimmy to share with everybody. But just 6 questions here. These will help position the answers that you get from your clients in a way that will allow you to extract those really moving, call to action worthy pieces of copy to integrate. So these are the types of questions that you should ask when you're trying to get a good testimonial. Like, think back to when you first signed up for my program. You know, how were you feeling in that moment? What stood out to you that made you want to do this? And this language is chosen very specifically to elicit feeling and to get them to express themselves in a way that's different than, so why did you decide to hire me? Right? We're using language that helps them start to visualize where they were, what they were doing, what they got out of working with you, that sort of a thing. Okay. Let me go back to my slides. I think that might be it. Let me see. Okay, that's it. Yeah, and so real quick before I do any live auditing stuff, if anyone wants to connect outside of today, you can email me, Kristen, that's Kristen with an I-N, not an E-N, at kmlcollective.com, or feel free to connect over on Instagram, Kristen LAJ. I don't post there a lot, but if you do want to see me dancing, it's a silly with dogs and dancing around and stuff, there's dancing stuff. Not really business related, some business stuff, but yeah. Okay, but that's it. Thank you so much for being here for this. And I guess we'll move to the live audit. Okay, so who is this for again?
David Sattler.
This isn't mine.
No,
okay.
That's actually Amelia's.
Oh, I see. Let me
David's
go back.
is
Yep.
DJS advisory. That's, yeah.
Okay, cool. So David, can you tell me a little bit about why you volunteered your website and which page you'd like me to look at?
You know what? The only thing that intrigues me is that I didn't do any of the voice of the customer.
Okay.
And I find that when you are articulating the voice of the customer, I could see doing an iteration on this that eventually gets me there. So that's kind of I just want to get guidance from you as it relates to kind of how I might be able to apply that.
Of course, yeah. Okay, so off the bat, the first thing, especially on the homepage, the first things that we need questions or that we need answers to is who you are, what do you do, and how do you help me as the viewer or the reader. So DJS advisory, solid advice, actionable strategies, proven results. Okay, I see executive coaching. So that gives me my first hint as to what it is that you do. I will say that off the jump, restating the name of your business, I feel is a missed opportunity to have something that is VOC related. So having that title section right here at the top, because we already see your logo, right? That's the name of your business. DJS advisory is up in the corner the whole time. So we don't have to worry about that getting lost in the mix. So my first thing is I'd swap out this title for something that describes more of what type of advisory, what is it exactly that you're doing. I think the subtitle, if we get more clarity on that initial title, the subtitle may still work. Advice, strategies, results. It's not bad, but this is where that voice of customer comes in, because what if you learn that that proven results maybe doesn't resonate as well as something else, strategic results, which that is not a good example because we've already got strategies in there. But you may find that even swapping out one single word after you do your voice of customer digging around, data mining, you may find that even a little tweak to a couple words here and there in the subtitle would be useful. Okay, so I'm just gonna, I see. So it brings us down. So do we have dedicated pages for each of these, or just the?
You have dedicated pages for each of those, and then a little bit about me.
Okay. Where do I
contact me?
Okay. Okay. So where are the dedicated pages?
When you press the board services, it'll bring you to board services. When you press consulting, it'll bring you to consulting. When you press executive coaching, it'll bring you, the button will bring you to the executive coaching.
Okay, so you're saying this what I'm looking at, right?
Correct.
The whole thing.
So this is just board services.
Yep.
And then there's a separate one for the other two, a little bit about me, and then how you contact me.
Right, got it. Okay, so
and then there are testimonials as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so when I'm saying a dedicated page, I'm envisioning like an entire separate page that opens up to talk about board services instead of just this one section. I'm not saying that's required or necessary without knowing your target demographic. These bullet points could be more than enough. So let me just scroll up again to, I just want to look at the.
Would it be under services where maybe those are the individual pages, or it's the same thing? I see.
Yeah, it looks like.
So it's a single page. Gotcha.
Yeah, so it looks like the entire website, and the way that I would describe it, David. So you have a single landing page style website, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And in fact, that's kind of the trend right now too, is to have kind of this one long scrolly website. Okay, let me go back up to the top. We talked about your title or your header and subheader a little bit. And then, okay, let's look at, so is this a quote? This is a quote from you. True leaders don't create followers, they create strong leaders. Okay, so my suggestion for the very next thing that I would love to see here is, it's a great quote, but maybe instead of listing it as a quote, it becomes a title section, right? So we remove your name, like this is coming, all this copy on your website is coming from you regardless, right? So what if it turns into, and I'm just gonna, since I already have Gally's website still up, like what if it becomes like almost a larger title section like this, right? So it becomes the statement, true leaders don't create followers, they create strong leaders. I love that. And then below that, instead of having your name, we talk about who's reading your website. So this is where we have body copy, like a small paragraph or two that talks about the things that people are struggling with and how you can help them. So that first paragraph that would go under your title, True Leaders Don't Create Followers, that would really be talking to the person reading the page, who they are, why they're there. Right. Again, this is where that VOC comes into play, because you want to use language that they're going to use in real life to describe how they're feeling in the moment that they come to your website. And then the second paragraph would be a little bit more about how you help. Exactly. Yeah. So instead of saying, I offer board services and executive coaching, you would talk a little bit more about the experience of working with you, or how you actually help someone, not just the service. And then we move down to the services section. And without reading this with more of a critical lens, again, it's hard to know how effective the copy is, but I think you are on the right track in terms of, I may want to tweak the language here. So, I mean, just on a quick pass in this first one, it does feel a little kind of clinical. I don't have any sense of who David is, right? I'm just reading reading about this service, but like, I don't have any feeling about you or who you are, what it would be like to work with you.
Well, continue to scroll down and you might be able to get a sense of that.
Okay.
So, so what I did is I have theoretically a landing page for each one of the services. I put my designations in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then about David. And remember, I'm not just doing executive coaching. I'm also looking for board work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on some boards, but I want to do some more boards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm
testimonials. So there's about 7 of them or 8 of them, and then contact me.
Yeah, I mean, as like a general overview of the site, I mean, it's not bad. I just don't feel like I know you as a person, which may be fine. Like, there's nothing that says that you're obligated to create more feeling or more of like who you are. But if I'm coming here to hire you directly to work with me, I would love to get a better sense of like, what is your personality and how do we build that in? So the two big things I'm seeing are lack of voice of customer. So using language that speaks directly to your target audience. And then the second thing is integrating more of your personality into the copy as well. Like, how would you, and also we're talking in third person as well. Like, David does this, David does that. If I'm working with you, I want to hear from you. So I love to bring straightforward, impartial point of view, or my approach is to bring a straightforward and impartial point of view, blah, blah, blah. So maybe making it first person instead of third person could be a way to warm it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I would also, this is just me being a bit nitpicky, I would get a new professional photo. Like, this one is a little grainy. And it's hard to see, like, you look happy and pleasant, but you also look like a totally different person who I'm looking at in our video chat than this other person. Like, it doesn't look like you to me. And so just having an updated new picture, I think would be really great. And then I would also go through your testimonials and see if there are ways to tighten up some of those, like we looked at earlier with, can we pull out shorter phrasing and make those a little more impactful? Or another option is you bold a line of text that you feel like is more impactful. So if you really, because I know some people really want to keep their full testimonials, or they feel weird modifying anything. Not that you would edit it by any means, but some people do feel weird, not using the whole thing, especially if their client, did a really nice testimonial.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like the bold idea because it brings out what you want to accomplish.
Perfect, great. So yeah, you could read through your testimonials, see if there's just a single sentence of each one that you could bold. And then I like the let's connect. That alone feels more personable than the other stuff on your website. Let's connect. Like, that sounds like a real human talking to me. So I like that. And I like that people can choose, what they're interested in connecting with you on. So yeah, I think the rest of it looks good. I would say there is an opportunity to do something with your footer. So because I think the Let's Connect section is technically using your footer, but I would view this as the not your opt-in, because it's not going to an email list, but I would view this as your call to action. And then below this, having a footer. So where your copyright is right now, that would be technically the footer, where you would have the links again to your services and any other relevant, like your privacy policy that you already have and that sort of thing. But yeah, this is my very quick take on it. Yeah. How do you
Very
feel?
helpful.
Any other questions?
No, I mean, I think you hit some really good strategic points. You know, this was my first out of the gate. I mean, it took 4 to 5 months to do, and then eventually, you know, it's been out for about 3 weeks. And
Okay.
I'm trying to gather now insights and thoughts, and I think you hit some really, really, you know, 4 very, very acute points that I think can work very well. And so I thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thanks for volunteering your website.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
David, I don't know if you had this feeling, but I really wanted to show up and be very professional. And so my old website sounded very buttoned up, very like I am capable of doing a lot of really important things, sort of. And that was my message, because I wanted to be seen and respected as a professional. But what I realized about it is that it just didn't. Then they got me, and I'm not a professional buttoned up person. I'm like super casual, and you know, like I want to talk to them. I want to get to know them. I really want to understand what they're going through, and really, so I don't do things in a linear way. I sort of go. I'm an outside the box coach and thinker, and even when I'm working with boards, I think that's why boards love me, is because I come in there and shake things up. I don't do what they expect me to do, and so Kristen helped me use language that I was kind of nervous about. Like, really, should I really say that? Like, it sounds so playful. It sounds so casual, but it's actually resonated much more than when I was all buttoned up and not really saying anything. My old website it was fine, but it could have been anybody. But my new website is clearly me.
Sure.
And I think that's the difference. And that's why I loved working with Kristen, is because all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. And it doesn't look like anybody else's, because there's some ridiculous things that are on my website that only I would say. So.
Very good. Thank you.
That's helpful.
That's great guidance.
Well, okay. So is the Total Inner Power next, or was there someone else before that?
No, the Total Inner Power with Amelia is next. You're right.
Okay, great.
And by the way, where was the call to action button? I didn't see it right after Galia's promo there for working with Kristen.
Oh, I was like, what?
I was looking for the CTA and I couldn't find it.
Okay, so is it Amelia? That's who was? Oh,
that is me right here.
Okay, awesome! Yay! Okay, so tell me why you wanted to share your website today. What do you want to talk about?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. It's not completely up, and even though I have been working for a while now, I haven't had time to, and perhaps it's not even my forte to work on my website and all of that, and all of my copyrighted content. And I wrote this one. It's not completely even up, and I guess what's stopping me is my own insecurities on the text first. So the pictures are just as placeholder.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote this copy, and I would really like to figure out a way that it really connects and do the job. I think that majority of my clients get to me through LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they don't really care that I don't have a real social presence.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to look more professional and perhaps use my website to grow my business outside of referrals.
Yeah, and even within referrals, right? People are going to go look at your website when someone sends them to you. They will probably look there first. So, okay, cool. So did we want to focus on the homepage, or were there specific pages you wanted me to look at?
I think I would be interested. Number one, I sent you already an email, but I would be interested in getting the feeling for what you see there from the copy perspective.
Okay,
like
cool.
I said, it probably is not completely all up.
Yeah, that's okay.
I feel completely lost, and
okay.
Lack of confidence in that and what I did.
Well, first of all, I think everyone can agree here that you're not alone in feeling a bit overwhelmed or lost about where to go. It's often I mean, one of the reasons people want to work with a copywriter is because when it comes to describing ourselves, we can be so bad at it. Like, it is uncomfortable to be like, I'm great at this, and I do. Some people really struggle with that, and that's something I think that we can all relate to in some level. So I'll just kind of, like I did with David's site, I'll just give it kind of a once over, and I'll stop at sections that kind of catch me a little bit. And I know that I guess I want to talk a little bit about the functionality and what I mean of your website. And I mean, like, when I'm scrolling, for example, it's kind of like pulling my mouse, like it's pulling me to different places, and it's making it a little hard for me to stop and read the sections that I want to read, because it's just like automatically pulling. So that's a product of whatever template you're using. And I don't know, are you using Squarespace or something like that?
I have a friend who's helping me with it.
Okay.
And
okay.
I'm not happy, but I figure at this point, since I've worked on the copy for a few months myself, I may as well, I've been looking for, and I guess I'm looking for the right person to help me with this project, and I haven't felt the connection. So I can change everything. It's just like a placeholder as it is right now with some copy that I did.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, let's focus on the copy then, and any functionality of the website. The person that's building it will be able to help you with that. But that was just the first thing I noticed, was it was a little hard to scroll because the way the website is, and this has nothing to do with the copy or anything that you did. It's the template of the website it's forcing me to move through faster than I'm ready to. So that's just a feedback on the functionality. But in terms of the copy, again, without sitting down to read it deeply and not knowing who your target demographic or audience is, this is just me kind of taking a shot in the dark at a few things. So the first impression of your title, first of all, I do like the format of this, like having a nice photo with the title and subtitle copy here. The initial title, I think, is a little wordy. Evidence-based professional coaching with lasting impact. The message that you're trying to share here is great. I love that you're expressing from the start that you use evidence-based coaching. Like, it's not random, it's strategic. That's great. And I think there's a way to implement that in the rest of the body copy. But the title, to put that in the title, it feels like a lot from the start. Now, having said that, I don't know who your target audience is. If you work with like high achieving intellectual types, they may really love that first piece, evidence-based. That may be exactly what they want to see. So without knowing who you're talking to, it's a little hard to say, get rid of that. But the overall title is a little bit long. So I would find a way to tighten that up and keep it just to the very baseline of what you do, whether it's coaching with lasting impact or evidence-based coaching or whatever a shorter version of that is. You might need to play around with the language a little bit. But I do like your subtitle for modern executives, entrepreneurs, and busy leaders. I would say here that I would put some kind of clarifying word in front of entrepreneurs. For example, you have modern executives and busy leaders, but just regular entrepreneurs. So just to keep like the theme going that you've started, I would do one of two things. I would either add a descriptive word in front of entrepreneurs. So what type of entrepreneurs? We've got modern executives and busy leaders. What types of entrepreneurs do you work with? Or get rid of the other two and just say for executives, entrepreneurs, and leaders. So just creating consistency in the way that you're expressing that message. I just want to see okay. So I know you said the website isn't done yet. When I clicked on this view coaching services, it just took me back to the top of the homepage, but I know that the site is still being worked on. Okay. And so again, with this kind of title section of the next piece, I think the general message is good. It's just a little long. Maybe each one of these becomes its own section. We've got to tap into your inner resources and what that means. Next section, awaken your inner wisdom. What does that mean? Third section, seize the moment now. What does that mean? And like we talked about with David, maybe after you do a little more research on like who specifically you're talking to, not just an entrepreneur and executive, but what type of like women in business, how old are they? Like knowing these things about your demographic will help clarify the language here. So maybe you find at the end of the day, seize the moment doesn't speak to the type of executive that you want to work with. Maybe it speaks to someone that's more into like manifestation or something, right? So knowing who you're talking to will really help clarify some of the language here. But let me go back to what I was saying on this title section is maybe breaking these down into 3 separate sections, unless you don't have much to say about each one of them, then let's find a way to integrate this language into the body copy here and find a different title that encompasses the essence of what you're trying to say here.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I can see what you're saying. And it's kind of hard because I want a niche, but at the same time, I kind of search different people in those 3 categories that I expressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, and half is female, half is male, and I don't know how to talk to all of them with the same kind of copy.
Yeah, and that's a valid question and point. And my suggestion for you there would be when you do any kind of if you do any kind of voice of customer research, right? So asking everyone that you're working with now the questions that either from the testimonials document that I shared with you, or if you create your own questions for getting feedback, right? There can still be overlap language because maybe you find that, sure, you work with people anywhere from 30 to 50 years old and they identify as different genders and they work within different expertise, but they're all feeling overwhelmed, or they're all stressed out in this type of specific way. So there will be overlapping language. And then here's where the creativity comes into it, right? So even if we're not talking to only 45-year-old women who do whatever for a business model, even though that may not be that specific, now we're sprinkling in Amelia language. We're using the way that you express yourself to talk about an overwhelmed entrepreneur. And that's how we're differentiating you as a coach and a leader in this space. So we're maybe putting more of your voice forward instead of focusing just specifically on the voice of your customer. Now, that's not to say that you're saying me, I, but the way that you talk about what you do and how you help, we integrate that a little bit more strategically into the copy. And that way you're differentiating yourself and speaking to someone who wants to work with you and how you coach, right? If that makes sense.
Yes. It totally makes sense. I love your approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so again, for now, just going down to the next section, like this doesn't look bad to me. It's really just about tweaking, right? I like the whole person approach concept. This is maybe a little wordy, and am I working with other people or just with you? Is it I take a whole person approach, or my strategy is to take a whole, right? So is it a group? Is this a group coaching business, or is it just you?
Well, for the time being is me. Eventually I'd like to grow some. So that's where the we comes from. And also I thought that maybe we included the client until some other helpers show up.
Gotcha. Okay. So in that case, we might say together we'll take a whole person approach, right? Like making it inclusive with them so that they understand the we is us, you and me, the client, the coach, not just, yeah. So it's like little things like that. This is just me being nitpicky, right? Little things to clarify the language, making the experience measurable. I feel like that's probably very important for some people who are on the fence about hiring a coach. I like that we've got these categories of evidence-based, personal, measurable ROI. I will point out you did something really great here too. You know how I was nitpicking your subtitle and how it wasn't consistent in the way you described the categories, but here you have 2 words: evidence-based, highly personal, measurable ROI. Boom, boom, boom. I love it. It's like it keeps it nice and consistent. My only pet peeve about the design part of this one is like, I don't know that I love that they're all kind of like center aligned. Even though it does create a bit of symmetry to some extent, or a visual kind of a nice visual look to it in terms of like we're starting smaller and building up, my eyeball wants them all to be even at the top. And I'll tell you the reason why. It's not just the way that my mind works. There are studies that show that symmetry and a cohesive visual design actually makes us feel safe. Like just human nature is when things are chaotic or out of alignment visually, then it makes our inner body like feel uncomfortable. So this is a very like, when we're really boiling it down to the visual element of it, right? This is another thing that your web designer could just make a very quick edit to make sure that each one of these boxes is straight along the top. A little tiny thing, but and then you'll have a section for testimonials. That's great. Frequently asked questions. It's always nice to have something like that. I might even recommend that goes on your about page instead of your home page, the FAQs. And I don't know if you're intending to keep the ROI of coaching, but again, without knowing specifically who you're talking to, I feel like if you're already having to justify to someone why they need a coach, I feel like for me, that would be a red flag. Like, oh, she needs to tell me why I should hire her, not in a like, here are all the great ways I can help you, I know how you're feeling, but more of a direct like, here's what your return is going to be on working with me. That it feels like a little too forced. I don't know.
I hear you.
But anyway, I could go on and on about that one, but I know we've spent a bit of time on your site too. I want to make sure that we're making time for anyone else since we've got a little bit of time left. But do you have any other quick questions before we move to the next one?
I do. I wonder if you have some recommendations for designers. Yeah. If you, I think you might have said you emailed me already, but I did. I'll reply to your email. I can send you some web designers. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It all makes sense.
Okay, cool. Yay.
Might I make a recommendation in the words or in the voice of Kristen? Amelia, maybe you could say something like, quit looking for answers outside of yourself and harness your total inner power to achieve whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jimmy. I totally love it. To me,
you're welcome.
Working on this copy was worse than giving birth. Like,
it's hard. I know.
It is hard.
I still struggle with mine.
Yes. So I'm thankful for today and this session.
Absolutely. I do. Oh, okay. So you've got Heather's up there. Before you jump into Heather's, Kristen, I have a couple of questions here from Dorothy. She's not able to, she's busy working while she's doing this. So you know how important this is. She's doing both things at once. I don't know how she's doing it. Dorothy asks, what were the 4 to 5 things you want to answer on your website? You said, who are you? What do you do? What were the other ones, or do you have the slide deck you'll send me and I'll share that? But do you remember what the other ones were?
Yeah, I don't know if I put them on the slide deck or if I just said them out loud. But so this is specifically for the top of your homepage, or the what is the word I'm looking for? The before you start scrolling.
Above the fold.
Above the fold. Thank you. Yes. So this is particularly for above the fold, answering the questions of who you are, what you do, and how you help. Those are the primary pieces. All of those things how you help. Those should be answered before anyone has to scroll or go anywhere on your website. They should know who you are, what you do, and how you help.
Excellent. I love it. So, and I'll type that into the chat in just a second so it gets archived there. The other question Dorothy had was, and it kind of goes back to the thing you were doing with David, the first person versus the third person, or do you switch back and forth? Do you use kind of like a we and us? And I guess maybe it does kind of come down to, are we looking to be very professional and stately, or are we trying to have a relationship with this person? So I don't know what your take is, but that's what Dorothy wanted to know.
Yeah, I think there are a few things to consider that would determine that. Number one, are you yourself the brand, and are you looking to connect with someone off the bat in the together you and I space. Or if you do prefer, just as you were saying, Jimmy, like a little more of a professional tone, I think third person is fine. But I guess my preference is if you're a coach and you are the person I'm working with, I want to hear from you directly and feel like you're talking to me. And how would you talk to me if we were sitting across from each other? You'd say, this is how I help. This is my approach. You wouldn't say, Kristen is a copywriter and Kristen loves blah, 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 right? So it's really more of in the space that you all work in, I think first person works best. But if you do have a company with multiple coaches, or you're looking to provide a different type of service that may have other people involved in it, right? That you're having a program where you've got other teachers or coaches coming in, then absolutely go for that we language. I mean, a good example of kind of, the way that I use this, right? Like I have my copywriting company. I do have other junior copywriters that I subcontract work out to if I get overwhelmed with too much of my own stuff. And so the language on my site is we, because my goal is to build my studio into a larger agency style thing. So I'm helping to try to manifest that by using we language, which I think is what someone else brought up earlier too. Like, oh, I might grow this into a different space. So I'm trying to preemptively start saying we and things like that. So I think there are cases where you could start using we, even if it's mostly you as the I. But in general, as a coach, if you're the person that's working directly with someone, I would say first person is best. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of being I in any instance, obviously on your about page, because you are building, one person's clicking the button. And so you want to connect with that person. Even if you have a team, you can use we or the services of whoever. But I think on the about page, especially, you want to use I, because that's how we talk with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay. I don't think we have any other questions in the chat right now. So if you want to go to Heather's page and do a little work there, we've still got some time left.
Okay, Heather. Awesome. So tell me where you'd like me to look, or if you had any specific concerns that you'd like me to talk about.
Thank you for offering. This is very kind of you, and I've enjoyed the workshop. So I am a brand new coach, just trying to find my way, and I literally just hired a company to put this together for me. So don't know if that was the right thing to do, but I was struggling with doing it on my own, and I was in the whole order of good is great enough, and kind of threw this together. So I just wanted to get some feedback on just overall. I mean, you can look at the About Me page, but just kind of looking through it quickly to let me know. And then, is this really what I should be doing, or should I be seeking other support besides hiring this company to do it?
Okay, let me start there actually. So when you say other support, you mean to build the website out, or is it that the website isn't quite finished, or what do you mean for that?
So it's a company that basically you hire, and they have templates of different coaching. Like they do it for therapy and they do it for coaches, and you basically pick the one you want. They all look pretty much the same. You change a few things on the website and your website's good to go. It's like a cookie cutter website. Instead of hiring someone to build it out and all that kind of, it's just a very quick and simple way of getting it done.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say about that. If you feel like at the end of the day, you need to feel confident about what you've got to share with potential clients, prospects, existing clients, if you send them here for any resources or whatever. So if you feel good about what you've got, sure, maybe you'll update the copy after this chat, whatever. But if you're feeling good about it, that's great. You will always find someone that's like, this is too cookie cutter, or, but that's usually when you're talking to designers or other people that do this professionally, and they're going to tell you like it needs to look different. I will say that, if you're planning to take your business to, I say the next level, but more like you want to charge more, or you want it to feel more custom or professional, then maybe down the road. And I'm not saying it doesn't look professional, because I haven't even really clicked around yet, but if there's any part of you that's like, I don't know if this really, like, I don't know if I love the color scheme. I don't know if I like the way it's formatted, and this company doesn't quite do that, then maybe just like put down for your like Q4 goal, right, is to start looking for a web designer that can do it a little more custom. Or maybe if you enjoy design work in some capacity, you could do it in Squarespace yourself or Wix or something, which are very intuitive platforms that for someone who may be interested in learning how to build out their website, that's an option too. But yeah, I would say, just to answer that question in particular, if you feel good about what you've got, there's nothing wrong with using this for now. If there's any part of you that isn't excited about it, or that you know you're going to want something different, just start like planning, like budgeting for it, or planning. I mean, I say budgeting, but like web designers can be anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. Like there's such a wide range, right? Depending on the type of customization that they're doing. But I'm happy to, you know, to make recommendations for designers too. The guy that Galia hired actually is wonderful, and I believe relatively affordable from what my experience has been like working with him too.
Yeah, just sidebar, I'm not excited about any of this.
Okay. Okay.
So there's, like that's my problem. Like I don't even, like I'm just like, okay, I guess that looks good, and I just keep it moving. Like I'm just surprised I even have a website. Like that's how shocked I am. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's a good first step. Like you said, what was the thing you said at first? It's better to have something than no.
Yeah, good is great enough.
Good is great enough. Yeah. It's a great lesson to teach. Yeah. No, but I joke, but it is true. Like sometimes we just have to get something up in order to get the momentum going to change it. And so, yeah, I think knowing that you're not super thrilled, and I would just start, you know, planning for what does that look like? How much do I want to budget to bring someone to make it a more custom version? Let me just, okay. I wasn't expecting it to do that when I scrolled. Okay.
I know that was like an Easter egg. I was like, I don't know. That's interesting. This whole, everything's above the fold. You just have to go sideways and then all of a sudden.
Yeah. Okay. So since you mentioned the about page, let me start there. I feel like there's a lot to say about the structure and function of the website, but I'm not necessarily here to do that at the end of the day. Okay, so for the about page, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, no matter the industry they're in or what type of product or service they have, is that they make the about page about them, which sounds counterintuitive, I know. And yes, you do want to have things about being a certified life coach and all this, but the very first thing on the top of the page should really be about the person that wants to hire you. So again, when we're talking about the title, the subtitle, or the header, subheader, that language being designed to speak to the reader, and then a paragraph or two about who they are, why they're there, pain points, things like this. And then we bring you back into the fold, which, by the way, this picture is gorgeous. When I first pulled up your about page, I was like, whoa, that is a hot mama. I don't know if you're an actual mom, so I hope that's not offensive saying hot mama, but it's a beautiful photo. And yeah, I mean, I think like all this stuff is important and good to have. I would just bump it down and put some relevant copy at the top that's related to the reader.
Okay.
And even with like the structure of the copy here, like the paragraphs, they may be a little bulky for some people to scan and read. I think we all know that most people's tolerance these days for time spent on anything is very low. So I would even break up these, even though it may not be correct in how we would write like a page of a book, right? We would want to clump certain paragraphs together. But you may want to break up these paragraphs further down, like into shorter sections or individual sentences, or using the bolding thing that we talked about in David's testimonials, where you bold certain pieces that you know will be more relevant or would move someone to action. Like, oh, they're going to like that I do video conferencing or something. So let me highlight that.
Can I interject real quick? Because I want to add on, because I think the bolding thing is so great, particularly if, and no offense here, but I call it a wall of words, because I've done so many presentations and I'm like, oh dear God, I can't make a wall of words. But I think your idea of bolding certain things is so important, because people are going to skim, not scan. And you have to guide them in the skim. So when you bold, they're only going to read your bold. They're not going to read the full minute of words here. It's all lovely, But since people by nature, because we live in a microwave or internet speed world now, they're going to skim, not scan. And so you have to guide the skim through the bolding. I think that's just brilliant. I love that, Kristen.
Thank you for adding that in for what you said too about the skim versus scan thing. Yeah, absolutely. And so, and for any copy on your website or anywhere else, always be thinking about attention spans and readability. There's some really great resources on making copy accessible for all types of reading styles. And there's kind of new information coming out about folks who may struggle to pay attention and read to certain things. And so we want to also kind of be, without getting too critical about that side of things, right? We still want to be considerate of all different reading styles, learning styles. And even though you don't have to modify every single thing on your website for this, it's always good to know, like this wall of text, as Jimmy said, wall of copy, wall of text is going to be very overwhelming.
It's wall of words.
Wall of words. Thank you. See, I did my own strategy didn't work. Yeah. And then Heather, with this other section too, it starts to look a little resume-ish. So there may be a way to restructure this part where you have like a couple columns, or you have a section that's like education and experience and a few bullet points, and then another section that's like a paragraph. It's just a way to break it up a little bit so that it's not too resume-like, because I think that does a couple of things. Number one, it takes the person out of the moment of reading about you. And number two, it starts to feel a little cold and removed from you as a person. So just a couple notes on that. I would reformat this a little bit. And same thing with, like, I see that, I think this is either, it might be bolded or a different font size. It's hard to tell. I actually have a little tool here that will tell me what your font is. Ubuntu Lite. Oh no, okay. So I don't think it's bolded, but maybe just a slightly larger font size. But yeah, I would just restructure the section a little bit so it's not too resume-like. And I'm also just noticing this little thing too, that like the phone number up here, it's really bothering me that there's no dot or dash between the 8 and the 6. Like our minds are just conditioned for those spacing, so it's easier to read the numbers. So little things like this, right? Like when I do a full website audit, like sometimes people will bring me in just to audit their website for all these little things that I'm sharing with you guys today. And it can be a little thing like these need to be dashes or dots instead of parentheses, and then no dot for these reasons. Here's why we do that, right? It's a visual readability / accessibility thing.
Yeah, if I didn't know 305 was the area code for Miami, I would have thought that was some sort of license number. Like, like a LCSW or something, like it looks, particularly with your long resume of accomplishments. Can I also, I know I'm really like just stepping all over this.
Go for it. No,
I have a compulsion. With that long list of accomplishments and everything that you offer, I might, as a potential client, I might look at it and go, "Oh man, she's like really over, like I'm not ready for that. That's a lot." You know how like sometimes people are overqualified for a job, and I'm not saying that you are or you aren't, but with everything in there, as a potential client, I might think, oof, either that's going to be really expensive or that's probably a little too technical for me. I'm not sure. And I don't know what kind of person you try to coach, or that you do coach, but for me, it looks a little intimidating. And I know we want to show everything that we have, like, here's my closet of everything. And you're like, all right, well, don't look at those things in my closet. And so I just feel like it looks like a lot, like Kristen was saying, and I wouldn't want to scare my potential customer away with showing or offering my entire closet, if that makes any sense at all. And I could be so off because this is not my job. It's just what I feel as a potential customer.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Jimmy said. I agree, because I had to really edit my like what I was saying, because I think the website is just something that compels them to call you, because you're going to sell them in a conversation as coaches, right? They're not going to probably hire you and send you, $10,000 by going to your website. It's just enough to get them to want to talk to you. And if this list could be off-putting, maybe because of the things that Jimmy said, I just think it's a little bit repetitive. Like, you have a master's in social work, so, and that's clear there in your education. And so in the second paragraph, if you scroll up a little bit, Kristen, I thought if you get rid of that, everything before the comma before social work, and then start with, I've spent decades helping women find direction, that's so much more powerful, because you obviously have that's a great sentence, right? But
totally, that's a bold one right there.
The holding a master's, and like, that's already down at below. You don't need to say that again, and you don't need to start. In fact, I'd rather know what you've done than what degree you have.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me ask you guys a question. I currently run a nonprofit organization. It's my real job, right? And I coach on the side. And who do I coach? I coach nonprofit CEOs, and I've got some for-profit people that are like C-suite. Should I be saying that in somewhere about me?
I would.
Okay.
I'd put that right up on top. Like,
okay,
I run a nonprofit, and I've been here, done that, and I'm here to coach you so you can be successful too.
Right, because that's why people hire me, because they know the work I do, and so that's like that's the part of the attraction.
That's it.
Okay.
It goes back to what Kristen said at the beginning, right? Like, what are your people saying? What's the VOC? And if they're coaching, if they're hiring you because of those things, use their words. They know what they're buying. They know what they want out of a coach. And if you provide all that, use their words, not yours.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. I agree.
Kristen, we're going to take this show on the road. We're going to do this again and again and again, you and me.
Yes.
And we're going to make Alia too.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I agree with everything that Jimmy Gallup just said as well. And I think it kind of goes back to something Gallia said earlier, where I think we do have this need to want to present in a very professional way. And sometimes we lose our own who we are in that, because we're trying to seem a certain way. Whereas if you embrace that, like, I don't know, but however you describe the work that you do as, in the nonprofit sector, like whatever that looks like, maybe it's messy and crazy sometimes, and talking about that and how you navigate those sorts of things is much more valuable than stating I have a master. Like, yes, that absolutely is still important, but we can put that there in a way that isn't as direct, right? It can be integrated in a more natural way.
Okay. Good.
And I know I was just like clicking around a minute ago. Where was it that something looked broken?
Oh no.
Did it just get updated, or did it just change? It might have been the services page. It might have been that. It's not broken, but yeah. So
there it is. Oh no, it just takes a while to load, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe it just takes a minute to load. Which is also, I'll be honest with you, Heather, that is also a reflection of the company that put this together. Like, the loading time, they're responsible for making sure all that stuff is working well. So
okay.
That would be a concern for me too. But
it looks like old school healthcare kind of webpage to me. I don't know if it is on that little icon in the bottom left. I don't know. It looks like something I would have seen 10 years ago on a healthcare webpage or something or other. Oh, is that your icon, Kristen?
No, it looks like, this is kind of cool. It doesn't look very pretty, but it is cool. It looks like if I were someone that had trouble with certain visual elements.
That's what that icon is.
Yeah, because they do all they do so many things that you would normally have to be in charge of, like that you'd have to make sure it was accessible, and all the, you don't want people taking your website, like all that kind of stuff. They handle that too.
It's very interesting that the user is allowed to do all this. Wow. Huh.
Yeah, because there's a lot of lawyers out there right now that are actually going into people's websites, and then, so, like, I don't know, at least on my nonprofit side, we've had to do a lot of work on our website in order to stay compliant with laws and rules, and so we don't get sued.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually haven't seen this before. It's a cool idea. I just wish it looked nicer.
Right.
But it looks like it's a plugin, right? Accessibility by user way.org. So it looks like anyone could add this to their website, which is cool. That's cool. But yeah, I know we spent a bit of time on your about page. I don't know how much feedback you want on the rest of it, but it sounds like you already kind of have an idea of the things that you want to change, whether it's the copy or just the design, that you're ready to maybe upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, none of this is terrible. It's just I could spend days nitpicking, like, let's talk about who you serve and who you are as a person, and how do we put these things together to create language that feels like Heather and that feels like it's connecting to your ideal audience. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Yeah. So I hope that, I know that was not maybe super thorough, but I hope that some of that was helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kristen, I had a question about the copy you put inside of a button, a call to action. So I saw in Heather's, it says appointment request. Is there any science or study research that shows putting, a very stately appointment request versus I'm in? Is there something, what's the science behind it, if there is any?
Again, it comes down to your brand messaging and your voice of customer, right? Like if you know that, and this is something we worked on with Gallia's buttons too, like if you know that Gallia would say, let's get started, instead of register today, right? Like it's very much speaking to who you are as the representative of the business, right? Or the brand voice and tone, the messaging of your business. And then also what resonates with your clients. So it's really the same. We're going back to the same thing. Like, what do they say in their mind? How would they express themselves? And how would you express yourself? So again, if it's like a corporate company, I may have a different answer to you, but as a coach, like I think that keeping that personable tone makes sense. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. Here's another question related to buttons. What is your recommendation or guidance on using different copy in buttons, even though they all lead to the same page, the contact page? So like one might say, I'm in, and another one might say, learn more. Another one might say, book an appointment, and everything goes to the same space. Or one might even say, I'm totally interested, or not so much, but they both go to the same place, or they all go to the same, but the copy's different. Is that crazy, or is that clever?
Oh, I think it just makes sense. Like, where else are they going to go, right? And I think it's fine to change the copy on the buttons. I have worked with people that really love matchy, so they want all the buttons to say the same thing. And so in that case, it's more a personal preference, but maybe your about page has a slightly different tone than your home page. And so you might use different language on the buttons, even though they go to the same contact page. So totally fine. I wouldn't overthink that too much. The only place that I might
should follow the copy though, right?
Right, exactly. Like there needs to be some cohesive message there, right? The theme or the general essence of it. The only time it might change is if it is some kind of like opt-in or a lead magnet. So they're entering their email to receive something from you so they can be added to your email list. Then you might want to get a little more creative with that opt-in language. Yeah.
Sure. I see your comment, Gallia. Yeah.
I couldn't remember what my button said, and I have one that says, let's do it. Let's do this. I'm like, wow, okay.
I love it.
Let's get curious. They're very different. Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's get curious.
Let's connect.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So let's chat.
I love Gallia's page. I remember when I first she sent me the link, and I was like, oh my God, I love this page. I have to talk to Kristen.
Yeah, I mean,
we have to bring her in.
It's definitely changed. It's also, especially like for Heather, for you, that you're not excited about your website at all. It gave me confidence. I used to cringe when I had to send someone the link to my resume. I would be like, ugh, just because I was like, it just lives there. I don't do any marketing or any funnels or any capture lists. I don't offer anything. All my business is through referral, thank goodness. So I just thought I didn't need it. So I didn't think it needed to be awesome. And now I think it's I think it's a great representation of who I am and what I do. And oftentimes people, when I do send it to them, like, oh my God, I love your website. I've never seen it before. And I get nice comments. I before never had anyone say anything rude, but never had a compliment, but I do now.
That's awesome. It is a great page. I have to admit, I don't send anyone to my page either. I very quickly will send them to my podcast, which will then guide them to my page. But I dislike my page immensely, and I just don't do anything about it. I tweak it now and then just to update it, but I think I should do an overhaul because I like the way your energy comes about, Galia, when you talk about your web page. Because if anybody says, "Oh, what about your web page?" I like literally my energy just drops off the earth. So I hate it. And I didn't pay for it. I just did it myself. Maybe that's why I hate it so much.
And also, in terms of like, and David's gone, but in terms of not being buttoned up and professional, like if someone sees my website and says, "Oh, she's not professional enough for me," we probably would not be a match anyway. So it's a great
You don't want
filter
it anyway,
for my
totally.
ideal client, because
Yeah.
if someone can't relate to my website, probably aren't going to relate to me anyway. So I may as well put them off with that rather than have a rejection in person.
That is such a smart thing to say. I love that.
And you're just saving yourself time too, like saving from getting on a discovery call that isn't going to go anywhere. So
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Well, hey, we've got 9 minutes left. Are there any other questions out there from my my visually impaired people out there with just names, no faces? Kevin, you were in early. Tony, you were in early. Sherry, you came in a little bit later. Anybody got any questions?
I don't, although I do have a marketing background. And Kristen, I will say that you gave some really good points about the website and what people should do. So kudos to that. This is very helpful, I know, to everybody you've given it to. Sorry, that was my dog in the background.
Yeah, we hear. We love it.
Yeah, they grunt a lot. So anyway, nicely done.
thank you.
Kevin says he literally just hired someone to create this website, so he's eager to see how his first draft compares to this guidance.
You'll have to say,
And if
well,
it
this
doesn't work
webinar
out, Kevin,
I
you
went
know who to call.
to.
Yeah, you know who to call. You don't have to stick with. Let them do the website and let Kristen help you with the copy.
There you go.
Sherry, what's going on? Unless you have to stay silent, it's okay. Remain quiet. All right. So, Kristen, this has been amazing, fantastic. I love it. And this is some, I mean, I don't know. I could talk about anything a lot, but this I love because the tweaking of the words and the way that it looks and all that kind of stuff. And how do we impact people and persuade them? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, our web pages are merely just ways to make people click. Like, that's what it is. It's just, how do I get you to click? I mean, it's the call to action. That's what the whole page is for. Like, how do I click to get the call? And that's the thing. What else? I did put the survey out there. I've got to do, Galia, go ahead.
Well, you go ahead. The survey is important. Talk about that. But then I want to totally, and it's a shameless plug because I love Kristen and I adore her. So go, say what you need to say, and then I want to say something.
Super simple survey keeping alliteration, super simple survey in the chat. Go ahead, everybody, fill that thing out so we know how much you enjoyed this, and say a few nice things for Kristen in there, and I will send off those beautiful messages to her later once I compile everything from the survey. Also, things that are coming up, we have masterclass by Master Coaches in a couple of weeks. And there we have Dr. Pat Williams, and we also have Damian Goldvarg. Damian is going to do a coaching supervision. So I don't believe too many of us are familiar with or have seen a demo of coaching supervision. So that's going to be interesting for anybody who is on this call right now or listens to the recording that is interested in going. He is going to ask for volunteers. If you want to volunteer and make sure that you are one of the coaches who gets the supervision or goes through the supervision, shoot me an email and I will make sure that we know that we have you in the seat. We're looking for, I believe it's five people, if I get it in the camera, 5 people to be volunteers. So it'll be sort of a group kind of deal, but that could be super interesting. The other thing that is amazing that's coming up is we have our summer conference that's going to be August 11th. So mark your calendar, save the date. We have all those amazing speakers. Like I said, we have Magda Mook, we have Janet Harvey, and we have Dory Clark. Those are the 3 headliners. I can't believe I have 3 headliners for my first conference. This is incredible. And then we have other speakers as well. So we're all very, very excited to host our first conference. It's 20th anniversary here at ICF South Florida. So we're going to have a lot of fun as well. So I don't have a pin on the location yet, but it will be in the Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area. So it won't be too far for everybody. And I look forward to all of that. So Galia, do the plug for Kristen.
Now, what I was going to say, and I don't know if you guys all felt this, but whenever I saw someone else's website, I could totally see, I'm like, oh yeah, they should do this, they should do that. It was really easy to identify how my input could make it better. But when I looked at my own website, like it's so easy to do for others, but it's when you're looking at your own copy and having to talk about yourself, I think that's where just, getting an expert like Kristen and a web designer like Colin and all the people that I used, I really was so happy to outsource it to people who do that better than I do. And so I just, certainly if it's, cost is an issue and you need to do it yourself, that's fine. But if it's I thought it was a really good investment and it has paid off. Like, that's how I always say, I'm like, okay, if this is going to cost as much as one client, for like a month, like I'm doing this, like, why am I even wondering about why I should do this? And once it's done, it's kind of done. So that's what I would say, is that it's easy for us to see others, things. But I think when you're looking at your own stuff, it's really hard to edit your stuff.
So true, Galia.
Yeah, and I will say, I'll just add on a little thing about that too. Unfortunately, I think when it comes to copy or the words that we use around and within our business, it's one of the last things that we look at doing. And I think it was Amelia earlier that said, like, it was such a big lift to like have to write her copy. And it's, unfortunately, it's like we think we have to set up all these other things before we can look at a website or, but at the end of the day, I think a few of you brought this up too. People are going to they're going to find your website one way or another. And it is a place where people go to feel connected to you and make a final decision sometimes about whether or not they want to work with you. So as much as it may feel like, do I need one? Do I need to work on my copy? Things like this. At the end of the day, it is one of the most critical pieces of your kind of marketing piece, the things that you put out there. So yeah, hopefully you got something out of today's session. I had a really good time. I love talking about marketing and copy. So I'm happy to come back anytime if you'd like to have me.
Awesome. We might have to, because I know more people signed up, but not everybody showed up today, but we all get busy and we do have a recording. And so there's all that. But yeah, if we don't have you back for a session like this, I think if you're up for it, I'd love to interview you for our podcast down here.
Yeah, I love that. That would be great.
Cool. And Galia, we got to get you in the studio as well. Awesome. All right, Kristen, thank you so much. This was amazing. You were amazing. I love your color, your energy, and your criticism of all of the things that we could be doing a little bit better. And it's not criticism, it's coaching and consulting. So I love it. You do really, really good work. And Galia's page is certainly proof of that. So thank you so much for everything that you do for all of us coaches and everybody else.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to be with you all today.